Hey guys, welcome back. So today I am going to be showing you how to make my homemade caramel recipe. Now this recipe has been highly requested. I have a couple messages of people wanting to know how it is that I make my caramel for my caramel apples. So today I am going to bring you along and show you how to make this homemade caramel recipe. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. And if you want to learn how I make my homemade caramel, then just keep on watching. So here is a rundown of all of the ingredients we are going to need, starting off with light brown sugar, a measuring cup, vanilla extract. Now I like to use Molina, the Mexican vanilla extract, but I ran out, so this is what I had on hand. And we don't need water, it's just really hot here in Virginia. Granny apples, organic, unsalted, room temperature butter, 1 stick, light corn syrup, sweet condensed milk, and lastly you can use a digital thermometer spatula, which I got off of Amazon. You can take the temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit, or you can use a digital thermometer gun, which is also from Amazon. And this is the brand, and it'll be linked down in the description box if you are interested. Now to start making our caramel, we are going to need 2 cups of light brown sugar. You can use just regular brown sugar, but your caramel is gonna look darker. And you want to make sure that your brown sugar is exactly 2 cups. We want to make sure that the brown sugar is nice and compact into our measuring cup, because we need it to be 2 cups exactly, because if not, then you're not going to have the same results at the end. Now that our brown sugar is ready to go, we do want to start to prep our pan, and you want to make sure that you're using a 10-inch 3-quart telephone saucepan, because you want it to be deep enough that we can make a couple batches of caramel with no problem. Also, we can go ahead and dip our apples directly from our pan. So butter is the next ingredients we are going to add, and you want to add the whole stick of butter, and you want to stir it until it's completely melted. Once our butter is completely melted, we are going to go ahead and add in a whole can of sweet and condensed milk, and this is a can of 14 ounces. And once the whole can is added, we're going to go ahead and stir the butter with the condensed milk. Once we have all the ingredients nicely blended, we're going to go ahead and add our brown sugar. And once we add the brown sugar, we want to mix it completely until the brown sugar is completely dissolved and there's no chunks left. Next, we are going to add our light corn syrup, and we are going to use exactly 1 cup of corn syrup. And once we have our corn syrup added in, we're going to go ahead and give it a good mix. This recipe makes 7 to 10 apples, but just keep in mind the size does have a lot to do with it. The bigger the apple, the more caramel you are going to use. And if you haven't noticed, we are going to do a lot of mixing. This recipe requires a lot of mixing. I am going to mix my caramel for a good 30 minutes non-stop. If we stop, our caramel is going to start to burn. Caramel burns very easily, and once it's burned, there is no turning back. You have to start over with a whole new batch. This part of making homemade caramel is so tedious, but it's definitely fundamental. I hate sitting here and stirring caramel, so I just go ahead and make it in big batches. But you can't skip it. If you want homemade caramel, you have to do this step. And while we are mixing, we want to keep in mind our temperature. You want to constantly check it to make sure it reaches our desired temperature, which is 245. And that is in Fahrenheit. And For Celsius, it is 118 degrees. And the reason I do 245 degrees Fahrenheit is because I love the results of how the caramel is a lot firmer and it coats the apple very well. You can go for a softer consistency. You can do 230 to 235, which is going to give you a softer caramel. But you do run the risk of your caramel sliding off the apple. So just keep that in mind. And as you can see, the caramel is now starting to bubble, which means that the temperature has risen. So I'm just going to give it a quick check, and it's at 226. So we still have to continue stirring for a couple more minutes. And we want to make sure that when we are stirring, we are getting the sides, since our sugar does like to crystallize on the edges of our pan. And by looking at the caramel, we can tell that it has gotten a lot thicker and it is boiling a lot more. The temperature is now 249, so we know that it is ready to go. So I'm just going to remove it from the stove top and let it cool.
A few moments later.
And after letting our caramel set for 5 minutes, look at the consistency. You guys, this looks so good. I love how silky smooth it is. It is not too thick, but it is not too thin. Look how runny this consistency is. So now it is time to dip our apples. And to dip our apples, I am just going to go ahead and dip it directly into our caramel. Just giving it a good twirl, making sure I cover all the sides. And when I am dipping slowly. And then I'm going to remove the excess caramel. And we are going to scoop the excess caramel on the bottom to the side of our pan. And when dipping our apples, we want to move very slowly because we don't want any air bubbles to form on our apples. That's what gives it that bubbly and uneven look, and it's definitely going to be noticeable when you cover it with chocolate. You are not going to have a smooth surface, but a very bubbly, uneven apple. And like my sister always tells me, those apples look like poisonous apples. So to avoid the poisonous apple look, I highly recommend that you dip your apples slowly, and when stirring your caramel, you do that slowly to avoid any air bubbles to form. I know it looks like I am stirring quickly, but that is because this video is fast forward just for the sake of how long this video would be otherwise. And another important step when dipping your caramel apples is every time you are done dipping your apple, you have to go back and stir your caramel. If not, it will start to burn at the bottom and you will start to notice burnt caramel starting to stick to your caramel apples. And as I dip each apple, I go ahead and place it onto my little cake disc, and I believe that they are 2 inches, but they will be down in the description box if you would like to purchase them. I got them from Amazon. And I am using organic apples just because these apples do not have the wax that the regular grocery store apples have. So it makes it a lot easier when dipping so that the caramel can stick evenly. If you buy the regular apples at the grocery store, you can do so. You just have to do another step, which is boil the apple a little bit to remove the wax coating that is on them. If not, you will get the poisonous apple look. And that is all the steps for how to make homemade caramel. And here are our apples completely coated in caramel. Look how beautiful they look. I love how glossy and shiny they look. They are evenly coated and our caramel did not slide off the apple. I love how our apples are nice and smooth. You can go ahead and dip them in chocolate or add any topping, or just leave it just like that and they look great. Now I am going to cut into my apple just to show you guys how it looks after being cut. Although this caramel is firm, it is super soft and easy to cut into. And look how gooey this apple is. I love it. And this is what we got, you guys. I love that even coating that is on the apple. Look how delicious this apple looks. And this is the remaining part of the apple. Look how glossy it is. And look how nice the coating of the caramel looks once we slice our apple. Now let's slice it a little bit smaller into serving sizes so that you guys can see how it would look for any party or customer. And now it's time for my favorite part, which is tasting all my desserts. And you guys, this caramel tastes so good. It is so soft to bite into. It's super gooey and not too sweet. It is so delicious. I highly recommend you guys give this homemade caramel a try. I hope you enjoyed this video, that you learned how to make caramel apples, and may God's peace be with you all, and I'll see you in the next one.